The Rockets and the Heat are more realistic
So you're
as of now
whenever you said
than the Spurs.
Whenever you said the time.
I did not expect to hear this from Shams Charania today, as on the Pat McAfee show, Shams revealed multiple crazy Kevin Durant updates, including where the Spurs stand in the sweepstakes right now. But not only that, he dropped a hint that a huge Spurs move is coming, but not for the names that we expected. We got to dive into everything Shams said, the update on the Durant sweepstakes at this very moment, and what it means for the Spurs' future in terms of adding another star not named KD. We got to get into all that on this episode of Spurs Digest. But Brian, we got to remind him, 70% of you are not subscribed. We got all the latest Spurs news every single day on the channel. So if that sounds good to you, even the NBA draft, all this great stuff, hit the free button down below. And now, look, we'll just start with some of the stuff Shams said, Brian. I think we'll take a focus more on the current KD sweepstakes, because the move for a big star is very interesting. We'll get into that in a bit, but he said a handful of juicy things. Spurs and KD do have mutual interest. He said that. He said he's sure that they explored some packages, but San Antonio's not as interested as Miami or Houston. Now, the Suns right now, Brian, they're in a bit of a pickle because they got a lot of teams that are saying, like, I don't really want to pay you a whole lot, especially if KD doesn't sign with me. But ultimately, the Rockets and Heat are more realistic landing spots. How are you feeling with this most recent update? KD, like, it goes from, okay, we're not getting him, to KD saying, I want to go to the San Antonio Spurs. Now to saying, from Shams, the Spurs are not even one of the top destinations anymore. This feels just like a crazy roller coaster.
And I mean, that's what happens during this time, right? Like, there's rumors everywhere, but I mean, we have not heard from KD actually come out of his mouth and say, I want to go here, I want to go there. And I think that this is just part of the game, right? This is part of free agency. This is part of the trade rumor mill. And sometimes these things are spun by other teams to build a bidding war. But one thing I don't want Spurs fans to feel like they need is to be in a bidding war for a guy like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a phenomenal player. I think he fits amazingly. I would be so happy to have him. But I don't think the Spurs are in the position that they were in years past, where they're desperate, where they need to get in a bidding wars to bring somebody in. Remember, you just got Fox. And the best part about getting Fox was how you were able to get him.
Yeah.
You didn't have to give up much at all. That is a good problem to have. I don't think you want to get in a bidding war with an aging veteran, no matter how great he is, right? Like, I just don't think that's a situation you want to be in if you're the Spurs. And I don't think that is the situation they're in. I think the Spurs are sitting here like, okay, we're not necessarily as desperate as Houston because we haven't really even got to see what this team can be, what this full potential of this team is. And guess what? We have the number 2 pick. And guess what? We have a number 14 pick. So to me, the Spurs have the luxury of not being desperate. And to me, that's all this is, right? I think other teams, maybe like a Houston, are a little more desperate to get that one piece that puts you over the hump. I think Brian Wright and company understand that we don't really know what this team looks like yet. Yes, there needs to be changes made. However, y'all not going to put us in a corner and get more out of us than y'all need. We already said no to Giannis for number 2, it sounds like, right? Yeah. So if that's the case, we're definitely not going to give y'all a number 2 for Kevin Durant. I think that's where the Spurs are at with this. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. I think this is all part of it. I just think, again, Phoenix is trying to get the most value they can for a guy like Kevin Durant, who, remember, you said it earlier, he's not guaranteed to re-sign anywhere. So why would a team give up too much real estate in the future for a guy that they don't even know is locked in there? You know, we've seen Kevin Durant jump from team to team to team. So to me, I think Brian Wright and company are playing it right. Don't be too desperate. You know what I'm saying? You already at the prom. You already there. Don't be too desperate to get the hot girl on the side. You know, just chill. Hit your little 2-step a little bit and let her come to you. And maybe that could be the position that Brian Wright's in.
And I think that's not just what Brian Wright's saying. I think that's what Shams is saying. Like, look, like you said, the Spurs, we got the luxury to be patient, man. We don't have to rush into anything. I mean, there's more pressure on an organization like the Rockets, whose last championship came in the mid-90s, to go out there and try and win. Yeah, you know, they had that 0-for-27 thing, almost had a historic run, whatever. But you got some young guys. You want to try and make that push. Even some older guys on some bigger contracts. Adding to KD does put that team right up there in contention in the West, even though it's a tough conference. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There are teams that face more pressure to succeed in the now than the Spurs. When we have guys like Wemby, we have Castle, you can even toss Vassell in there. I mean, look, whoever you want, Sochan, right? There's even Dylan Harper, right? All these guys, like, just playing to be so good for the long-term future that we should not be in any rush right now. But that goes to the other thing that Shams said. And to bring this back up, he said the Spurs are more interested in trading for a star on their timeline. And those types of players aren't available yet. Now, Shams basically said, look, the San Antonio Spurs, they have assets. We know that, Brian. That's the one thing that we have more than almost any other team in the league looking to trade for a big star. But right now, kind of without saying it, he kind of said, listen, Giannis, KD, yeah, big names, but they're not really looking at that short-term gain right now, even though Giannis would have been amazing, right? But we're looking towards the future because we know names can just be put on the trade block whenever. I mean, look, I don't want to bring up the Luka example because that's crazy out of left field, but when stars become available, Anthony Davis from the right, like these kind of things can happen. These guys can pop up out of nowhere and you can go snag them. Those names are not available quite yet, but for the future of the Spurs, Brian, now this has me thinking. If the Spurs' long-term plan is to add another star eventually, maybe not KD or Giannis level, who knows? Who are we talking right now? Now, look, it might be someone that hasn't broken out in the league yet. Now, this is just a list of the top scoring small forwards this year, according to Basketball Reference. Have a look down the list, pause the video, make sure you turn it to HD so you can read all the names. I mean, Brian, look, there's a bunch of names we could go through. No point in breaking down every single one of these guys, but I see names like a Jalen Johnson, who's probably not going to get traded from Atlanta anytime soon. He's amazing. Hope he recovers well from injury. But a guy like Trey Murphy, man, I've seen his name thrown out there so much. 21 points a game this year. I feel like people sleep on that all the time. Solid shooter, solid defender. There is some names here on this list. RJ Barrett is reportedly on his way out of Toronto if they can get a good package back. I'm just saying, like, if the Spurs want to move for a nice younger star that fits on our timeline, there are names out there that could very well be moving on from their teams very soon, and wouldn't shock me to make a move for maybe not a KD level superstar, but someone that absolutely fits with this team and is on a better timeline.
And Josh, that's the luxury the Spurs have of where they're at right now, right? They're at the process of the rebuild. That is a great spot to be in. Like, yes, we can make a trade. Yes, we can go get a superstar, but we also are a great role player away. And that's what Trey Murphy is, right? He's not necessarily a star, but he is as good of a role player as you're going to get, because you look at his shooting, man, but it's his defense that stands out to Trey Murphy. He can guard the best guy on the court. And to me, you really get yourself somebody that can be that 3-and-D guy that can also fill it up. Think of a better scoring Sochan, possibly a better perimeter defender as well. But that's a great problem to have when you're the San Antonio Spurs. And that's the point, right? Is where they sit now, that I think we're so used to, especially the last few years, especially after even having DeJounte at times. There was a desperation there where it's like, oh man, like we need that superstar back. We need to be back to the promised land. And to me, I look at this roster and say, can you get to the promised land with this roster? And like you said, maybe he's adding a really good role player, adding a guy that makes sense with, again, not leveraging your future. Because to me, that's what makes the Spurs so valuable for not only this year, but we'll be having these conversations for the next 2 or 3 because of all of their assets that they have. And they have such a bright future. And to me, you don't blow that up. You don't change that unless it's for that right piece. And you know one thing Brian Wright's going to do is find that right piece.
100%, man. Like, I'm excited. I'm just really excited because Pop in the front office, Pat Fo, we always say, Brian Wright, this new regime, Mitch Johnson, head coach, looking for that pace and space type of move. Like, again, this is just a small list. You guys go pick out your own guys. I mean, look, there's some centers that could very well fit alongside Wemby as well, or maybe 4s that fit long-term. I mean, look, I saw a name like Domantas Sabonis. Sacramento seems to be in a bit of a tough spot too. Not saying he'd be the perfect fit alongside Wemby, but it'd be kind of nuts, right? There's names out there that are not up for trade right now that could very well be in the future. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this long-term adding a star plan for the Spurs. Might not come to fruition this offseason, but sometime in the future, it's a very exciting thought. But leave your projections, your thoughts. Who could the Spurs go after down below? Love to hear from you, but that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, hit that free subscribe button. You got to do it now. You made it this far in the video, 8.5 minutes in. We really appreciate all your support. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Bryan Colbert. We'll catch you in the next one.